Hey everyone, welcome back to another exciting episode of Attack and Production. Today I, Bancroft, am being joined once again by Jimmy, Jake, and like always, Fluff.
What's up, people? I don't know why no one else can say
Stop
hi
You're
first.
supposed to go in the order
No,
that your
look,
name is called. Jimmy.
we're supposed to leave Bancroft hanging, and that he's going to have to sit here and explain himself for playing Slug.
Because I wanted to. The end. So, like always, if you enjoyed the content, hit that like, subscribe button, let us know you're there, and don't forget to hit the notification button, bell, whatever it is, because everyone has button fetishes, like Jimmy. But Slug, Draft Box 6 stuff has came out. I can't talk all of a sudden, but I wanted to play it really bad.
I can't deny your comment on the button fetish thing.
I'm aware.
I did get new keycaps not keycaps, but new switches for my keyboard, and I am in love with them right now. I would press them, but Bancroft would get really upset with me because they are really clicky.
They clickety clackety?
Yeah, they're real clicky.
Fair enough. Dang.
Sounds good.
So, Slug, turn 1 typically could be a wings, could be, in this case, the 1-drop yellow, or it can now be Demigra. I chose Demigra because I wanted to use that on the board soon enough because I knew I was playing against Vegito, and I wanted to get the unison established with high enough markers so in case I need to play a counterplay later down the road, I could. He plays the 1-drop Goku so he can search for more cards and fill it, and he grabs, oh yeah, the card he milled is the secret rare of all cards to mill.
Yep.
That's how
That
it
hurts.
be.
But he pulled a Kaioken, the SSB Kaioken Goku, which truth be told I completely forget about. But it's okay because as you all will see in the video, Slug can recover very quickly. But new Slug cards, I'm still tweaking this deck, so it's not officially where I like it yet. But I am actually loving the idea of this deck and how that it can potentially play a 3-drop at any time it wants to, almost.
So I've yet to see this deck in action, but I recall from playing Slug back in the day when Wings first dropped, and it was a very aggressive hand control deck.
Yes.
But I remember a lot of the issues that I had with the deck was not seeing pieces that I needed in my hand. So do you think there are more options for that now in terms of the new cards, or do you think you need something like Yellow Apes for this deck to fix the hand issue?
So beforehand, I always felt like the 4-drop would play any 3-drop, and originally you only had 2 targets for it.
Mm-hmm.
As long as they're in the drop. Now you have I think 5 targets,
mm-hmm.
and they all can benefit what you're playing against. It's just so now you have more of a variety of options, and you use the 2-drop Slug with wings on the board. It's only 1 energy to search out whatever 3-drop you want, or pull the 4-drop to your hand if you already got the 3-drop. So there he comboed the card off. That's why I went to the drop.
So I feel like Bancroft and I talked about this a little bit earlier. I feel like Slug right now is essentially, you can play it one of 2 ways. You can play it either extremely hand control, or you can play it extremely aggro.
Yeah.
And I think that Bancroft's variation here in our tournament this weekend was kind of a mixture of both.
It was, yeah. I cut it down immediately after the games were over with.
Yeah. Yeah, and that was what made me think that, because you were like, yeah, I didn't really want to do all this stuff. I really wanted to just aggro. And I feel like that fit your play style more. But in mine, Nick's, or Jimmy's hands, this may have felt more hand control. And I feel like we might have leaned into that hand control more than the build swarm.
Yeah, because every turn, practically turn 2, 3, and 4, in my opinion, you're wasting all your energy to play a ton of cards.
Yeah.
The word wasting isn't the right word, but you're using a lot of energy to play. I was able to. I had I think in this duel, I think on turn 3, I get 7 battle cards, maybe, or 7 total cards on the field. And if I had a Xenocell, I could have gone to Xenocell.
It looks like Slug is a lot of early game setup.
Yeah.
To resolve a big explosive turn from what I've seen from just passing by the tables at our locals.
And having the unison, I don't need an energy to do counterplay. I don't need energy to do dormant potential unleash now, you know?
Yeah.
So I was like, just keep cards in my hand, which I felt like I always had a good size hand. Especially now with the 1-drop yellow, it draws a card when you play. Slug, you could take a life early on, and when you wake in, you swing, it draws a card. So
now
there's searchers as well, which come in handy. Go on, Fluff.
Sean and I have talked a lot about Vegito as well. And, you know, he really likes this deck. He has a lot of fun with this deck. He has a lot of like interesting tech choices in this, but it still ultimately boils down to the cards that he's drawing and the cards that are being dealt from his life to his hand before he awakens. So if he doesn't have Polymorphic Potara or the 5-drop, his deck is just going to stall. So, you know, if you're ripping his hand, he may lose those critical pieces. If you're critting him, he may not get those pieces out. So it'd be interesting to see where this goes.
What little hand control is in this deck did hurt him a little bit. But here, real quick, 1 yellow energy to play any 3-drop. Doesn't specify yellow battle card, it just specifies yellow Slug's army. So I played the 3-drop Agent Destruction, which he has to discard a card. And then Agent Destruction for 1 green energy, I can play another 3-drop right afterwards.
Now that Slug says Slug's army. That's not Slug, correct? Or is it just any Slug's army?
Other than this card, I believe.
Other than this card. Okay, gotcha.
Play another Agent Destruction, correct.
Yeah. I was remembering there was some clause to it, and I was like, damn, if I was wrong and you could just keep playing those out, like, that's nutty.
Yeah, it would be. Were you going to say something earlier, Jake?
I was just going to say that Vegito did get some support in the most recent anniversary box.
Yes.
And I had the pleasure of playing against Sean in this event as well. And it was really interesting seeing how a lot of these older cards and archetypes with their new support interact with a lot of the newer cards. It really stretches your brain and like makes you think like what negates were in set 6, like what battle cards with barrier or what with weird abilities were in set 5 that I don't remember, you know?
Anniversary box was so kind to Vegito. That 5-drop. So really, Vegito probably benefited. I would say good Vegito and Gotenks were the 2 decks that really benefited besides the Agents of Destruction. Yeah. But the Polymorphic from Anniversary Box 2019 and then the 5-drop Resolve combined from Anniversary Box 2020, like this deck literally just needs a good leader to fit that engine into. And it could very easily be a tier 1 strategy.
So right there, if I had a Xenocell, I would have swung with the Agent Destruction. I would have swung with the 10-drop first, then Agent Destruction, Xenocell, and then swung again. I didn't have it in my hand, though.
That's a little absurd.
Now, I will say, I do remember him. He was getting pretty bad pulls because he still, even on turn 3, he still couldn't even go into a Vegito.
And this is back to what I was talking about. It's about, does he have those pieces in hand? Yeah. And if he does not have those pieces, he's just gridlocked.
Oof.
Yeah, I forgot he had that in his hand. And I had to clarify. I was like, does it ignore barrier? He's like, no. I'm like, okay. So I keep wings. But I still lost my entire board.
What a play.
Yeah. And it's cards like that keep red relevant.
If you look at energy resource here, you spent pretty much a total of 3 energy to build that board on that turn.
That's true.
Yep.
He spent
and then he spent 3 energy to get rid of it and put 1 single 15k battle card on field.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not saying that the Kaioken Goku is bad or Slug is broken, but it shows how much more powerful green has gotten over red in the past few sets.
Yeah.
Like it's absurd how much value you get off of some of these green cards.
And I would really consider that Kaioken Goku to be a barrier card for red, just in the sense that like that's one of those cards that I think you need in red in most instances to have the crackback ability, because red does not have the energy efficiency that say stuff like green, yellow have. So red has to utilize cards like the SS Blue Goku, the exploiting weakness Vegeta, is that all you got, cheer in unison, to really control the field. Otherwise, they just get out-resourced.
So, blew up my entire field. This is what you can potentially do with Slug on turn 4, which is so ridiculous. I was able to rebuild the whole board.
So I see that you've only charged 1 yellow energy. Do you think this is a more green heavy deck in energy terms? Or was it you just weren't getting yellow cards that you wanted to charge?
Ultimately, I think I only need 1 energy at all. 1 yellow energy to do anything yellow related. Now, granted, it means like 1 yellow thing, period. I think ideal, if you had a split, 2 green, 2 yellow, you should be perfect. And you could still, like, even later games, play 1 yellow energy for the 1 drop, draw a card, pay 1 yellow energy to swap it out for another 3 drop. And then use your green energy, like Agent Destruction, to play another card.
Yeah.
And I really like the way that Slug handles itself. You don't have to have check lands in this deck. You don't have to play the Giro green-yellow super combo. Yeah. I mean, you could, but you don't have to. And, like, I really like that about Slug. Slug feels very fluid in its deck choices right now. And like, it's right there. I mean, you all see what Bancroft is able to do again and again with, losing the field, building the field. There's just, maybe it needs a new leader. Maybe the leader's not fast enough. Bancroft was playing that kind of half hand control, half swarm. Maybe if he leans into one more than the other, I think we really see this deck take off and be a formidable contender.
Yeah. And also, so quick adjustments I've done to this deck since I was testing a more aggro build. I took out all the Rubians and I think Earth Destroying Kamehamehas out of the deck just to see how it flow a little bit better. We didn't get a chance to do a true test though of it, unfortunately.
I think that's interesting considering the way you were talking about charging energy. I think removing the EDKs was a good call. I feel like there could have been games where you go to cast them and they don't do what you want them to.
Round 2, I was playing against Seth. I went to go do it. I'm like, wait, hang on, I can't do it. Won't get the milk factor because I charged yellow. Like I had it completely changed. I'm like, oh yeah, these are coming out. These are useless now for me.
Yep. Yeah, so that's another really good point too.
I sent 1 energy for the 2 drop, pulled the 4 drop. I'm trying to get rid of his battle card because I know down the road it can be an issue if he just, if he gets the Gogetas on the board and whatnot. Sure, I could have -3, but I decided not to do that. But here I pay 3 energy to bring out the 4 drop. I noticed a slight glare there. I apologize about that. And using its effect, I played the 3 drop Slug for my drop. And I go to restand 1 of my energies. Now, I thought I grabbed the green one.
Oh.
And I'm here thinking what to do next. I'm like, okay, cool. Like, hang on, let me use Slug's effect first. And I'm like, whoa, what a second. Hang on. And I was confused. I was like, wait, this card. I was verifying, like, was I supposed to green? I was like, I meant to charge the green card. I was like, I got this confused with the other Angelus. And I actually even showed the other one. He's like, no, you're fine. Take it back, man. Take the. I'm like, okay. I was like, you sure? He's like, yeah. I'm like, cool. I appreciate it, man. Which, yeah, normally, if I stick to what I say, I don't do anything different. So, Slug effect, 1 green energy, play a Slug's army card, energy costs 3 or less other than this card. So I played the yellow-red Slug, the yellow 3-drop Slug, which, when in rest mode, your opponent can't add cards to their hand outside of a leader's effect.
Ooh.
So I went ahead and slung with that just to get the effect off. No, I do have
that actually really hurts.
Yeah,
against Vegito. Wow. Okay.
Well, right, because he's not going to get his draw 2 off of Resolved combined.
correct.
If he goes into Hyper Rush, he's not going to get the draws on Hyper Rush. And those are huge benefactors.
Yeah.
For the Vegito deck. Like, they're almost essential. Not being able to resolve those puts him so far behind.
So before I pass turn, I passed him, but I was like, before you do anything, let me look at your drop area. I could not for the life of me remember something. He's about to play it and do it, but I was trying to figure out what it was exactly. Because I do have a Frieza's Charismatic Villain in my hand, and I want to make sure I played this right. So he does the Gogeta, which allows him to go through his deck for 2, 1 Goku, 1 Vegeta, energy cost of 1, play him in rest mode, which allows him to go into his 5-drop.
Yep.
So
Charismatic Villain here would have shut him down.
So right here, he went to go draw cards, and I'm like, you can't draw cards, man. So he plays a card, and I'm going to stop the video right here. Jake, you do something that everyone does that I don't see anyone do it, and I need to start doing it. When someone plays a card, you immediately say, thinking.
Yeah.
It's the greatest way to tell your brain, hang on, let's look what's going on before I make this play. It's the best thing you do. Here, he plays the card. I'm like, cool. I think he has Deflect, Charismatic Villain. And I ask him, and here we go, resume. So I'm like, it has Deflect. He's like, no, it has Barrier. I'm like, oh no.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, it stays. And then in that moment, I was like, I wish I didn't. Oh, man. I'm like, I'm not going to take it back. He's like, you sure? I'm like, no, you let me take back my energy earlier. I'm not going to take back this mistake. I messed up. I thought it had Deflect, not Barrier.
Well, and that's the advantage to sometimes playing these roguey decks, right? Like, you sometimes just get that, you get that surprise factor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what I was kind of speaking to before, where you really have to stretch your brain to remember what every one of these obscure or old cards does.
Yeah.
Which surprise factor has become somewhat of a joke in our locals because of one particular player. Shout out Tanner. But I do think there is legitimate cause to putting cards in your deck for a surprise factor. I've done it with Baby with the 6-drop Majin Buu.
Yeah.
And it's I don't play it more so as surprise factor. I play it to force my opponent into making bad plays. And like Bancroft said, this is very standard for Vegito, but Vegito is just not a common deck.
Yeah.
So he didn't know that, even though that's not out of the like a crazy tech option.
When I was playing Vegeta GT, Goku Oob, I don't know how many times I have just ripped through people with that card. But you're going through your game, people don't know it's coming. They prepare for one thing and end up dealing with something completely different.
Yeah. Like the first time I played against it, I knew it was in your deck, and I still didn't expect to see it on field.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I should, because Vegeta GT, you're playing 38 energy and it's an 8-drop, so of course you're going to play it.
Right, and if I'm playing a ramp deck, I'm going straight for Goku Oob. Like, that's the first card in the deck. Like, that is pick number 1.
Yep. So that Vegito card also allows your opponent you to rip a card from your opponent's hand.
Mm-hmm.
He happened to select the others. I had 2 super combos and a dormant potential. He selected one of the super combos.
Ouch.
Which results in me not having enough combo power in the end to win. And that Frieza would have hit that Vegito.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. If you had just been walking by this table and looked at the board and tried to guess who was going to win the game, I'd say most people would have guessed wrong. This was a really explosive kind of come out of nowhere win. Granted, there was like a knowledge gap that enabled it, but still, props to the Vegito player here, Sean, right?
Yeah.
Congrats, man.
it's wins like this that tell me that like Vegito is so close to being relevant. Like I was testing around with it for a while. Like if this deck gets a reboot, leader, this deck is going to be crazy. The deck only needs minor changes to the leader to put it on par with, maybe Gotenks or Black Brawly. Like I really do think it's in that level of range of skill.
Yeah, I was about to comment like this deck has a slightly more moving pieces than something like Gotenks, but the package is so you can make it very small, just like Gotenks, and put in so many good tech options for red blue, or you don't even have to go red blue with this deck. You can go crazy with the colors.
Yeah.
And I would argue that some of the pieces in this engine on their own as individual cards are stronger than some of the pieces in Gotenks or Black Broly.
That's it. Hyper Rush. I mean, Hyper Rush is what? 30,000 triple strike, draw 2 cards, warp, a card on the field, or KO card on the field, your opponent drops a card?
I think you picked 2 out of your opponent's hand.
You picked 1, so.
1.
Yeah.
Still something you don't really have a lot of access to in red blue.
Yeah.
Typically when you're going to take cards in red, you get to look at the hand.
Yeah. And then, Repeated Force, is just a big muscly monster, but it's still a really strong. I mean, playing a Repeated Force is no different than playing a Mira with a Champa on. It's just going to be a gigantic body that's going to hit without combos for 70-ish thousand, probably.
So, that being said, I think Slug could have won if I would just done the Jake move. Nonetheless, Sean played a really, there's a lot of S's now. Sean played a really good game, and he managed to get what he needed at the end to claim that victory against me. So kudos to him. I do plan on tweaking the Slug deck a little bit more. Jake, I've seen if you're interested, or Fluff, playing Untapped later this week a little bit so we can get some more practice on it.
Sounds great.
I would ask Jimmy, but he works a different shift than we do.
Yep.
I'll quit my job.
Okay, well, cool beans. With that being said, thank you all for tuning in. Hope you all enjoy. Jake, any last words?
If you want to win, you have to practice. And if you want to think, you got to tell your opponent you need a couple seconds.
Jimmy?
I actually have a drink recommendation today. I didn't think it would be very good, but I took an Arnold Palmer and mixed it with a little bit of Jaeger, and it's quite nice, actually.
Lemon, sweet tea, and Jaeger. Interesting.
Yeah, it's not bad. Like, I thought it was going to be kind of grody, but it's pretty good.
Jimmy, that is the most bro thing I've ever heard.
Are you listening to Fish?
No, not currently. I'm actually listening to Sneaker Pimps Becoming X. Currently, I'm listening to Postmodern Sleaze.
Okay. And Fluff.
Read your cards, know your plays. As always, Arnold Palmer sucks. I mean, Fluff out.